So the second of our shortlisted entrants is Mischa Foster Poole, and his submission is called A Dictionary of Neurological Signs. Here then are 3 excerpts from an A to Z of poems inspired by the study of nonsense verse, by the Russian avant-garde, and various kinds of neurological deficit. The modernist impulse to break apart and reorganize artistic activity is aligned with an investigation of our rather less biddable inner life. And the result is a small triumph of weird science and even weirder poetics, as though Daniel Kahntz and the futurists had been put in charge of the General Medical Council. The poems dramatize their unusual conditions, such as the inability to point to parts of the body, with a battery of effects: corrupted repetition, word distortion, musical illusion, brilliantly funny juxtapositions. And they make a case for nonsense verse as something more than an appeal to the unconscious, which was Auden's rather lovely definition in his introduction to the Book of Light Verse. In Mischa Foster Poole's hands, nonsense is a revealing symptom of political distress and a reminder of how easily writers and diagnosticians alike can become officious and doctrinaire.
Oh, thank you. That was great. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Mischa Foster Poole's poetry now before we hear from Mischa Foster Poole. So we were collectively completely thrilled to read Mischa Foster Poole's witty, virtuosic, and playfully nonsensical dictionary of neurological signs that experiments with meaning, sound, and rhetoric, and also makes a serious case for absolute multiplicity in poetry. With absolute nerve, Foster Poole takes on a variety of voices as a Navy man, as an activist, as a reliable flosser, as a first-time Tory voter, as a model, and unearths humour, empathy, and absolutely sparkling language. With bravery, Foster Poole interrogates making meaning and also his own kind of nonsense sense through sound itself. His death-like appearance, his demonic epithets, his demonic image strengthening, his strengthening of his demonic image, his demonic state, personality, his views on his image, his demon dream story, his death dance or Tottentans. I could have equally quoted almost any of Foster Poole's extraordinary poetry, as there is no filler here. Instead, just lavishness, sonic generosity, and a very real attempt to engage with avant-garde ways of making contemporary poetry. And I think now we're going to hear from Mischa Foster Poole.
Thank you very much, Will and Richard, and thanks to everyone. I'm going to read 2 short poems from the wider collection, W and A. W. Lingate to Rye Neck. Blatant and lovely blatant, and you do not come across as lovely dramaturge. You do not know the half of it. You cost excoriating half of what I have seen, what they plan to do in a coral grain. Interminable wedding plans is off. It was never to work out. He lived in a tower, for God's sake, but certainly a crumbling one. Plumped with bitter hooks one day, I saw him mutiny on the Bounty. I saw he resorted to fixing bracket hooks with a spark plug. He brought me transparent paint, hooks with a spark plug at Troldhaugen. He brought me, now you have 2 options, I'd say, either shit in the bag or get hopping. Either it's not the domain I'd take up, wading up to dry my rag on a chest now, come on a toweling rack. At the origin, come on a Borgia wedding-sized dishcloth, comes only up to your neck. A baddie's sign to autotopagnosia. His demonic sign, his waist, his demonic signs, his wastrel years, his business skills, his female fans, his sexual drives, his secret red book, his moral flaws, his improvisation skills. He is composed of us as interpreter, played by Accardo, played by Burmeister, played by Francesca, played by child prodigy, demonic mythology and Catholicism, his Jewish stereotypes, his death-like appearance, his demonic epithets, his demonic image strengthening his strengthening of his demonic image, his demonic state personality, his views on his image, his demon dream story, his death dance or Totentanz, the current culture of conductors, his work True Popery, concert, his French school, his Corelli boss, his inferno music, his comedian-like personality, his demonic side, his employment of managers, his entrepreneurialism, his masculine performance, his Mephistophelian piano works, his glow of goodness, his altruism, his touch intense and infernal music, his Pierre should have lost the clue, his left-hand pizzicato, his rock star metaphor, his label, his French ballet, French school, French opera, his Napoleon comparison, his soloistic domination, his popular music tradition, his ritualized social contract, his performance body, his Allgemeine Wiener Musikzeitung, his Athenaeum, his Birmingham Journal, his Figaro in London, his Frankfurt Journal, his Gazzetta di Genova, his Le Globe, his guitars and mics, his Pierre Choderlos de la Clos, his Samuel Richardson Loveless character, his Clara Schumann, his eroticism and death, his eroticism and violin playing, his eroticism and violin making, his eroticism and virtuoso violin performance, his forged daguerreotype, his flying staccato, his soloistic domination, being his conducting the orchestra, his silencing the audience, his volume of sound, his narrative control, his sovereignty of the self,